when you have a thought and you want to do something, stop.
Ask the AI.
Ask AI. I just signed up to something that is costing me just under $400 a month. What it takes people 9 hours of continuous Excel work and formulas down to an average of 9 to 13 minutes.
I have actually interacted with and met with a lot of people who have actually lost their job because of their
AI is
organizations.
coming for your job, absolutely.
Yes, it is.
And these
So
are
what's
not
your next job going to be?
Something that I was using on the way here today was Perplexity. I just turned it on one day. I'm thinking it's probably not going to be any good. Before you know it, it's doing emails for me, creating drafts, telling me what's on my calendar. And it's telling me, these are my 5 meetings today. These are the 3 projects that the decision makers in the meetings are working on. And this is what you should probably be steering the conversation towards. What I've built most recently that is saving me the most amount of time is a prompt board. So we all know we've got the keyboard.
Yes.
We've got emojis, and now we've got the prompt board.
So you're saying you press some keys and it creates the prompt.
Yeah. I get to spend more time on doing what I do best. And that's human interaction. That's working with people and delivering value to the business.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Dumb Monkey podcast. And we're joined by our co-founder of Dumb Monkey, Aamir Qutub, and by Ramon Rodriguez from the News Corp Australia. Ramon, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. And first of all, we made it to our second podcast, which is great. And the reason I wanted to have Ramon here is I met with you, I think, like a month ago, and we started talking about AI.
It's moved fast.
It has, yes. And you mentioned that you were doing some stuff with AI. And I originally assumed that you would be just using like ChatGPT doing basic stuff. But when I had the first conversation with you, I was blown away with the level of how you are using AI personally in your role, but also how you are actually implementing AI in your business as well. So I would say you are one of those non-technical person who doesn't come from a technical background, but have been using AI really heavily. You're like one of that super users of AI. So I wanted to have you in here and listen from you about how you are using AI.
Yeah.
But before that, if you can give us a quick intro of who you are, what you do in your life.
Yeah, super user. I'll take that. Yeah, so we met obviously about a month ago. It's been a fast relationship, hasn't it?
It has, yes.
We're talking all the time now, but a little bit about me. So yeah, Ramon Rodriguez. I'm from News Corp. Been in the company for quite a while. Been around the company in pretty much every state. So I've got a bit of a reputation of being the fixer when things are bad. I get sent in. I've had the opportunity to work in multiple different markets, which has been really exciting. My background is media, but digital media is where I've spent most of my time. Before News Corp, I was at the Yellow Pages, if anyone actually remembers what that is.
Yeah, I used to sit on them when I learned how to drive.
Yeah. So that was where I learned how not to do digital transformation because that obviously didn't go too well. Sorry to the ex-employees out there. No, all jokes aside, it was a great place to learn. And News Corp has been fundamentally an exciting place to spend the last 9-10 years of my career. Kudos to all of my bosses who've just given me opportunities to do things that I probably wasn't qualified for, but for some reason I landed on my feet most of the time and learned a lot of things along the way. But the key thing that sort of put me into AI is, like any business, low on resources, low on time. If you hear my title, I've got about 2 or 3 different jobs. So finding the time in the day with, a young family and kids isn't easy. So that's how I sort of fell into AI.
And what are your titles?
Yeah, so I'm the General Manager of the Geelong Advertiser and General Manager of Product and Partnerships for VicTaz. So that is brands like the Herald Sun, the Hobart Mercury. So keeps me busy.
Well, that's a big responsibility.
It's a huge responsibility, but yeah, I hear you on, media is a game of a whole lot of stuff to do at a really good level and not a lot of time and resources to do it. Everything's right on the edge, isn't it?
It totally is. Everything's important. Everything's on a deadline, but there's only so many hours in the day, right?
So you're using AI as a tool, as an AI assistant. So it's that, when I don't want to do something I know this is going to take me some time, I know it needs to get me done. What are you throwing into AI? What are you asking it to do?
On a daily basis, regularly? Yeah. So you're probably going to sound like a bit of a weirdo answering this, but I was recently at...
There are no weird answers here at Dumb Monkey. We embrace weird.
I was recently talking to the Vice Chancellor at Swinburne. We were talking about people on the left and on the right in terms of AI adaptation. I think when I haven't got meetings, I'm one of those people that probably speak to AI more than humans right now. So I use it for literally anything and everything. It's sort of become, it sounds weird, like my AI has turned into a bit of like a thinking partner and a bit of a solution buddy, but someone to just see someone's even keep me entertained on these long drives. Like a funny story is on the way here. So I now live back in Melbourne. I moved back to Melbourne about a year ago based on work, and coming to Geelong regularly sometimes can be up to hour and a half, 2 hours. And I used to just complain to my MD. I'm like, these drives are killing me. What am I going to do to keep busy? I'm so unproductive. So he said, read a book, listen to a podcast, make calls. Did that so much. And every time I would ring people, they'd be like, you're on the freeway again? And I'd say yes. So I think that sort of led me into an AI tool that comes to mind that I find super relevant. All of you would probably agree that Siri is okay, but it's sort of a piece of crap. Like it's really not that useful. So something that I was using on the way here today was Perplexity, right? And while driving, if anyone's used the Perplexity voice mode, it's absolutely amazing. I just turned it on one day. I'm thinking it's probably not going to be any good. It'll probably just give me great cited, up-to-date information, but it literally seemed to be integrated within iOS. So before you know it, it's doing emails for me, creating drafts, telling me what's on my calendar. It's like a supercharged, like executive assistant, no offense, Rosemary, but it's so cool. Like I'm driving on the freeway and it's telling me, you know, these are my 5 meetings today. These are the 3 projects that the decision makers in the meetings are working on. And this is what you should probably be steering the conversation towards.
Fantastic.
Like, so helpful, right?
It's really
helpful.
Interesting too, because we talked a little bit in the first episode about how AI, particularly generative AI, is there it's a human tool, but what it does is it can unleash that real human creativity. It can give us time to use our imagination and to start problem solving, because it can do some of that thought work for us. But that idea of bouncing back, so get it to bounce back ideas towards you, aware that yes, sometimes it will hallucinate and come up with, you know, some things that aren't right. But for the majority of time, it can be that real conversation. And we're learning how to use the AI. The AI is learning how we need it to work. And the more you use it, the more super users we get, the better it is. Sure.
And Perplexity started as a search tool. So it's an AI search assistant. And it came out as a competitor to Google. So I jumped on Perplexity at a very early stage. And since I started using Perplexity, I haven't been using Google at all for all of my searches. Like it's that. But then what you are talking about is the next use case of Perplexity. You also introduced me to Comet as well. It's like there's a new browser by Perplexity that you started to use.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started.
Just to give everyone an overview, Comet is an AI browser by Perplexity that they have just introduced, which means that AI is actually built into that browser. And so if you want to give us an overview of how you're using it.
Okay, like Comet, essentially think about it as, your normal Google Chrome. It does everything else that would do. But imagine you have someone sitting next to you and you can ask this person to do anything you want and they essentially always say yes, right? That's what Comet Browser is for me. So the mundane and the things that I don't want to do or don't have time to do, Comet Browser does for me. They seriously need to sponsor me, considering how much I've been talking about bloody Comet.
Well, I paid $200 US dollars a month on the basis of your recommendation.
Guess how much I paid?
Yes. Yeah.
$30 a month. So I was one of the early people to get access.
Wow.
So lucky. But for example, like how I use it on a daily basis is this morning, for example, a big part of my role is I've got a lot of different projects and shifting tasks. I use an app called Todoist and Notion every morning based on a priority filter I've got set up. Comet essentially organizes my calendar, my Todoist for me. And the cool thing about it is it's not restricted by APIs. If I'm, needing broad context, it's not having to look into 6 or 7 different places. It's essentially got access to anything in my browser. So like the level of accuracy I find with Comet and just calendar and tasks, so interesting and amazing. But I'm always cautious with Comet because it's a new piece of technology. What does that data privacy look like? Obviously, a lot of the information is kept on locally in the servers. So I think that is interesting. There's so much still you can do for it, from a single prompt to, multi-step research. It's effectively taking out pretty accurately so far. But the feature I find really cool as of recent is the shortcuts feature that's come out to Comet. So you can essentially put different shortcuts together. So it may be put my to-do list together, scan my calendar, and then respond to my top 3 emails in draft. And it'll do that all for me. So it's sort of amazing because like thinking about things like this, before I came into AI, I wasn't like a tech person. I'm digital marketing and digital, sure. But AI, I think, is opening the doors for so many non-technical users to make their lives so much quicker, easier and faster. But the only warning is if anything like me, you'll get obsessed pretty quickly and easily.
New male of the family.
Yeah.
Ramon, you touched on something in there that I think is really important to discuss, and particularly it's a great context to talk about it in the media industry, is private information.
Yeah, that is the thing that we're all trying to navigate, right? Because I think AI at enterprise level will be scaled much faster once we sort of work that out. Because ChatGPT had a leak. How many years ago was it?
I think 3 years ago.
Yes.
3 years ago. Since then, there really hasn't been too much. But
recently, what happened with them is they created a new feature
public,
where you can make your chat public, and it's on Google Index.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a big fail.
Yeah. So my rule of thumb is if I'm going to put anything into ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever it is, am I okay if it comes up on Google? If in a work context, if I'm not, I probably won't put it in there.
And that's a great. But so then you adjust.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So you adjust around what you're putting in there. So you can make that a little bit more general. You can give it an example so that you're going to get some feedback based on what it is that you're looking. How I'm interested to ask you about then how you've learned and how your prompts have changed.
Yeah, prompting is the most time that has been the most time consuming thing of spinning my wheels in AI. Because I originally just got told, talk to it like a human. I talk to it like a human, but I don't know how many times you've experienced in your life when that one person keeps texting you and, you just have to keep responding and your text messages start getting shorter and shorter. That's what it's like with AI, right? But you need to keep that prompt and that information good because if not, you're just talking and talking and talking and spinning your wheels. So prompting is like super critical. So at the start, I learned a few methods like craft, score, and they were really good. But if you talk to AI as much as me, repeating yourself and writing out these frameworks is tedious and time consuming. So maybe a couple of months ago, I built out just a bit of a spreadsheet of prompts. So if I need to brainstorm, I've got a sequence of prompts. If I need to handle a tricky stakeholder, I've got a series of prompts. But what I've built most recently that is saving me the most amount of time is a prompt board, and that integrates within Apple. So we all know we've got the keyboard,
yes,
we've got emojis, and now we've got the prompt board.
Yes.
So I essentially just click on that, and the format that I need to use or the use case, it essentially just pivots. I insert it and put a little bit of my context.
So you're saying you press some keys and it creates the prompt.
Yeah. So it's got 100 odd set prompts based on the situation, click it, and then it just inserts, just like you would with an emoji.
Yeah.
So you just need to edit your context slightly, but that saves you from having to repeat yourself consistently. And the number one thing I think is a barrier to prompting is actually getting lazy with it because we can follow like a framework like Score or Craft, but if you're low on time and just lazy, you don't have the time to continuously be putting that out. So this essentially puts a framework together that's easy, repeatable and scalable.
Yeah, and if you're really busy and you're trying to juggle multiple tasks at the same time, then that's a really handy shortcut too.
Yeah, totally.
And I was also facing those same issues. I think one thing that has helped me a lot is custom GPTs because that's something that you can create in ChatGPT where you can pre-feed the prompt and then have all of the instructions in there and then start to talk to it. And the new feature, which is called projects in ChatGPT or in Copilot, you've got notebooks where you can again feed the instructions. So it already has the context and the prompting becomes smaller with that. But I really loved your idea about having your prompts fed in the keyboard and like using them as shortcuts as well.
Yeah. If I just take you back to ChatGPT, right? You were talking about ChatGPT. Were you talking about custom GPTs or projects?
Yeah.
Which one?
Both actually.
Both.
Like GPTs and projects.
Which one do you prefer? So I still can't work out the value in projects.
That's a good one. So if I have something that I will do on a repeated basis, like a system where I've got a blog and I need to convert into a podcast script, then I would definitely use a custom GPT for that.
Yeah.
Or I've got like my LinkedIn post builder, that is my custom GPT. Whereas if I'm working on a project, like we are starting this podcast called Dumb Monkey. So I've got a project called Dumb Monkey Podcast, which has got some general instructions. And then every interaction that I would have would be stored in. So projects is like a folder where you have all of the relevant files attached to it, all of the instructions, but it can actually look at other chats within that environment and provide the information.
Yeah.
Or similarly, when I was writing the book, I created a project for writing the book and had the context of the book in there, had all of the relevant files, and then I was creating chapters in each and every chat.
Yeah, right. Super interesting though. ChatGPT, I'm sure most people know what that is, but I don't know how effectively everyone is using it. I think when I speak to people about it, they're sort of using it like Google.
Yeah, it's effectively, it's a really surface level. And that's part of that entry into when we talked about this, AI becoming ubiquitous, becoming part of our world. That's that thing. So electricity can be turning on the light, but it can do an awful lot.
Oh, for sure.
More than turning on the light.
Yeah.
So, if all you're going to do is switch the light switch on, then you're only really tapping the surface. So, but having these sort of conversations and giving people a bit of an insight into how you're using it in different use cases, I think is a great way to break down those barriers, because it's easy to just step up and say, oh, well, I've heard people, worried about privacy, or I can't put my business stuff in there because then the model's going to learn off mine and then it's hands off and I'm not going to start. So breaking down that barriers to entry, I think, is a good place to start, and just normalizing it a bit more.
It is, yeah. And you mentioned how you now have a relationship with AI.
Did I say relationship?
Yes. Or situationship, like how Gen Z call them.
Now, I'm not one of those people that fall in love with my AI, though. I'll say that. Yeah,
that's fair enough. But how did you start on this journey? When did you actually start working with AI?
Probably generative AI about maybe 12 months ago. So it hasn't been long, but it's been a real journey, because I thought it was just initially this cool shiny thing to something that I don't know how in my day-to-day basis, what I would do if it wasn't there in terms of, productivity and creativity. Where it started to really unlock for me is, traditionally, the job interview question, what's your biggest weakness? And I would always want to say creativity, but I would never say it. But I always thought I was really uncreative, right, from a traditional sense. But for some reason, AI has unlocked this new level of creativity in me that I didn't know I had, which is actually amazing. My whole life, I thought it was my biggest weakness. Now I probably think it's my biggest asset, but it's probably just because I'm actually really interested in it. But since experimenting with it from the first Google ChatGPT, if you know what I mean, just asking random questions on there to where we are now, there's been a huge journey. But until I started seeing ROI in it, I didn't put all my emphasis into it. My biggest win from it can be tied back to just under $200,000 commercially.
Wow.
Without, going into too much data for obviously the privacy of companies and clients and everything. But I'll just give you a bit of a hypothetical. So if you had the opportunity to essentially know everything about anything in any industry and market, we were able to use that to essentially narrow down on a particular industry. In this case, it was education. I'm not saying anything more than that, but over a period of time, using AI to actually understand what was of importance to this business and what their key priorities were. When we sent an email to reach out to them, it was all written by AI based on what we knew was going to be important to them by their signals, and conversations, framework, and flow was all supported through that. So the human brain wasn't taken out of it, but we had this trusty sidekick that was much smarter than I was and had a lot more time than me. And over a period of time, like, the revenue and the relationship has just grown, not because I'm using some sort of tool that's cheating, but I'm just really in tune with what they're trying to achieve, and, how our business objectives can merge to drive a, greater success for both parties.
And that's the great thing about using AI as a tool, though, isn't it? Because it allows you to distill things that you would normally sit there and workshop and discuss in team meetings and go through and do analysis. I mean, it takes a long time. How tuned in are people, getting everyone in a room, getting everyone onto a meeting. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you can just spit it out and it can give you a version. Yeah. And that's the starting point.
That's it.
But it's a lot of time that goes into that starting point. So it's a nice way to be thinking about how people can use that. And that's really true. I mean, there's no industry that's not true of.
So one key takeaway that I can just by listening to you is that if you are in a B2B situation where you want to build relationships, originally it took a lot of time to build that relationship, but now you can set up signals so that you get enough contextual information and provide better value to the clients in terms of what they would be looking for, rather than having to guess it or spend a whole lot of time trying to do that. Yeah,
that's it.
So it makes your offering more better for them, and you are solving a problem which is actually their problem, rather than trying to sell something which they don't need.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if you recently saw, I think it was called the End of Humanity exam, which Gemini, the new Gemini tool, DeepMind, went through, and it solved a math equation. I think 4 or 5 different ways that obviously the smartest in the world could solve it. So for me, going back to like the blank page analogy, one thing that I've had to implement myself, and I encourage teams to, is just having an AI first mindset. You know, when you need to write something down or start on something, there's a blank canvas, it's just that much harder. So just bring AI to any situation, even if it can't do the whole task right now, it can essentially give you the framework to get started. And I think whenever we've got a problem or a task or an opportunity, just stop for a second. Can AI help me here move faster, quicker, better, more effective? And
can AI target this to the audience? Can AI even give me how to start?
Yeah.
Give me the first 3 steps. What should I be doing?
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there and you're blocked and you're busy and you've got a lot going on, then that can be a really helpful tool to have.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But we're in an interesting stage, though, I think, in humanity. If you look at the bell curve of where AI is versus internet growth, so fast. But when I was looking at some data, I think yesterday, I think everyone is just living on AI 24/7. But that's just me. I think because I'm in the media and I'm at the central point, but I realize I'm more of an outlier, and probably so are you. So I don't think most Australians are realizing, though, the speed of what's happening and growing. It's so much faster than we think.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And if you look at particularly the GPTs now versus the early GPTs, then the new LLMs, the frontier of AI is already really quickly moving into the space of, well, how do we create? You talked about doing a custom GPT. Well, that is at that frontier of AI now, is where we're starting to look at small data AI. So, imagine a future where your AI lives on your phone, doesn't access any outside information. It has access to it, but it doesn't allow your information out. So it starts to use your voice, your thought patterns, your prompting, and all of a sudden you've got something that you have control over. So it's a bit more personalized. And so much of AI now is moving into that space of how do we solve the problems of personalization, because we don't all want to say the same thing. Like that's the point of the generalization, is that, and that, being able to unleash that creativity and that imagination.
Yeah.
Because AI can't do imagination, but, it can do a whole lot of other stuff that blocks our imagination, because the paperwork is mind-numbing. What did you call it? Robots in the first?
Yes, repeated, obligatory, boring operational tasks.
Yeah, I kind of want
we
that
are
as a bumper
surrounded
sticker.
by those. But the point that you also raised about Australian economy and how we have always been traditionally slow, but it has not really affected us because the overall growth of internet, that rate has been slow. But we work with organizations in UK, US, UAE, Middle East, and we are seeing like the amount of adoption that is there. Like almost every business, whether they are traditional business, manufacturing, construction, they are using AI in and out, whereas over here we are still asking the basic questions about AI. So I think as a country we are definitely much behind the whole world, and I would say this is quite concerning because the rate with which AI is growing is really fast.
It's a huge risk if we don't. If you look at the the globally, economically, the US has obviously still got a bit of a lead in front of it in China. But if you look at the money getting thrown out, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars with a B in, artificial intelligence infrastructure across the world. Like it's huge. And I think we can all sit back and complain and say it's going to take our jobs. And the reality is it will take some people's jobs. But one thing I found out, before there were an alarm clock, do you know what they were? Before alarm clocks were there was a job called knockers, right?
Yes.
People will come and knock on your windows, right? So I think
in the
humanity
hotels
is
you
just
would
going
have
to evolve.
wake-up calls.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, wake-up calls. What are those people? Telephone connectors? What are they called? With the cords? I'm too young to know.
The operators.
Operators, right?
Yeah.
But then, obviously just humanity evolves. But I think
Yeah, so it's going to change jobs. It's going to change the way that we work. It's going to change a lot of other things. But I've always maintained that from the beginning, the very early beginnings of AI, the point of AI being able to do repetitive tasks or to do things quicker that we find difficult, process a lot of things in a really short period of time, means that the important stuff, when we turn around and go, you said that what's your job now? Basically, you're a problem solver.
Yeah.
That's what AI allows you to do. It allows you to actually focus on the problem.
My thoughts on the jobs have actually changed a lot in last 6 months. Like around 6 months ago, I wrote an article and I said it's not coming for a job, and like people who are going to use AI are going to steal your jobs, not AI. But then I have actually interacted with and met with a lot of people like who have actually lost their job because of their organizations.
Is coming for your job, absolutely.
Yes,
it is.
And these
so
are
what's
not,
your next job going to be?
Yes, and these are not like administrative jobs, like people who are in creative jobs. I've seen technical creators, designers, coders, people at management level losing their jobs.
Go and have that conversation in Hollywood at the moment with,
100%.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting.
But that question is, what is your next job going to be?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that long ago that such a thing as a social media manager wasn't a job.
That's right.
So a lot of the jobs that have actually developed in the last 15 years were never jobs, and that's going to speed up now.
Yeah.
The kind of jobs that are there, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be less jobs, because less jobs would mean less opportunity, less productivity, less things to do, less problems to solve.
Yeah.
We don't have less problems to solve. We've got bigger problems to solve.
Yeah.
No. I think it's just really exciting. I think it gives the opportunity from people like generalists to turn into specialists in some fields.
Yeah.
So I think it gives us the opportunity.
A lot quicker.
Totally.
Rather than having to sit there and do the amount of training time that you would need to do, the amount of time you'd need to set in an industry to really pick up the pieces, you can learn a lot really fast now.
Yeah. Focus on value creation. I get to spend more time on doing what I do best. And that's human interaction. That's working with people and delivering value to the business and to companies. And that's what I enjoy doing. I also enjoy, having to spend 45 minutes every night working out my to-do list, and I can go and play with my kids. So there's so many benefits to it. But I think personally, being on the far right, it presents a super exciting opportunity, probably the most I've seen in my lifetime. If you think about it, right? We've got companies getting sold for a couple of billions of dollars, and these are just people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s between a few people, right? 3 people plus, a few $1 billion, right? So what I think that presents is a huge opportunity. Even some of the thoughts and the things that I'm dabbling into. If you asked me a year ago, would I be building an app? I would say no way in hell, right? But the skills that you wouldn't technically natively have, like AI gives you that to essentially connect, your thoughts and what you want to do and where you see gaps in the market to actually into execution in a cost-effective way, really. So it's pretty amazing, to be honest.
It is, yeah. And it goes back to the point that you raised about how you think it improved your creativity or enhanced it. And what I found personally myself is that it has allowed me to uncover things or play in those spaces where I traditionally saw as my weaknesses, and being able to use AI to actually be able to do that. So essentially, if you are a person who knows how to delegate and who knows how to make AI work and have got right ideas, then you can do a whole lot of things that you could not because you had some challenges. And you talked about like development. Development is a very good example of how if you had an idea previously, you would go to a developer like us and say, can you develop an app? We'll charge you $200,000 to develop an app. But
is that really what you charge? $200K?
Yes. Like to develop like a full-fledged app, starts at 30, 40K, but can go up to 200K. Or more than that. We have charged like $500,000 as well. But then now you can use things like you were using Lovable or
like vibe coding.
Yes.
I thought it was just a funny name at the start, but being able to code, right? Obviously, it's a skill, right?
And
but
a language.
Now LLMs are able to do, to a certain level. Like I would have never thought on a day-to-day basis, if you ask me what are my top apps are, I would say Claude Code. Like I would never say that, right? But it's just so, it's crazy because an example of where I've got real life value out of it that's not related to work is I used to pay over $100 a week for an online fitness trainer, right? This is actually where I saw the biggest amount of value for AI is I started thinking, shit, this is too much. My wife's cracking it. Like, we've got a mortgage. You shouldn't be spending that much money on my PT. I hope he doesn't listen to this if he does. But I started experimenting by getting my WhatsApp logs with him and putting it into Notebook LM at the time, and then ChatGPT, and actually measuring who is giving me better results. And let's interact the same way. Over a period of time, I started seeing that AI was actually delivering me a better ROI. Ended up cutting the train up, and that's been like the last 6 months, and I'm in better shape and better results than I was with him. I'm not saying that it was any better, but my wallet's obviously definitely better off. And now I'm in the process of launching the product to market, hopefully. And it's just a good example of like a tool like Lovable or Bubble just puts opportunities in people's hands that you never thought would be there.
Yeah. We talked about a lot of tools over here. First is Cloud Code.
Yeah.
So can you tell about what Cloud Code is?
Yes, I'm still trying to figure that out. Yeah. But what I do know is it's amazing. So from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it essentially gives the coding capabilities into the everyday person's hands because you can interact with it through LLM. I don't need to know how to use Python to get it to execute local things on my computer. So on a day-to-day basis, how I'm using it at the moment is if I think about, okay, yeah, great. So in my current company, there's a whole heap of data I've got to deal with. And some of it that's not confidential and, it may be external board reports or company reports. A big part of my role is collating information and, presenting it to executives and boards and making sure the picture is there. So instead of building out presentations now, I will get Claude Code to build out HTML interactive dashboards that's got market intelligence, risk tools and financial modeling that they can pull out that takes me maybe 10, 15 minutes to put together, that previously pulling a deck, putting it together, like we're talking 5-6 hours, and not to mention people's face drop when they see like, is this a website? No, it's just HTML code. But Claude Code builds it out and it's super quick and great. And for me as well, another thing I use it for is I'm constantly downloading things that are on my PC, my documents, and it's so messy. Client files, organization. So I built a NAP script and it just organizes my calendar, organizes my files locally, and just keeps my computer like, nice and tidy. It's just the small things that create mental clutter for me, I don't have to think about.
So how many courses did you do to learn all of this?
Take a guess.
None.
Too many to count. None.
Wow.
None.
Excellent.
So that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think,
jump in and play.
Hey?
Jump in and play.
Jump in and play. So there is I think where people are struggling at the moment, I know I do, is if you think about back in the day, we would have encyclopedias, we would have big books, carrying them to school, and getting information was a little hard. And then obviously the internet came around and we'd have to search 10 different sites and we'd think it was amazing, and it is. But I think the problem humanity has got at the moment is information overload. We've all got too much. And AI, I think for most people, from what we see from surveys, it just gives them anxiety. Where do I start? Is it ChatGPT? I hear about Claude. I hear about, Perplexity, whatever it is. Where do I start? So I think it's really important that, yes, there are a lot of courses out there. I think it's courses for AI is like 6x growth at the moment. But how do you find courses that you're not just going to be able to walk out of and think, oh, I understand, how an LLM is programmed, versus how am I going to use an LLM or AI today to actually drive value in my life tomorrow?
And that's exactly the question, isn't it? It's that idea of, if we're going to use it, we need to understand it. And that's actually not true.
Yeah.
So I would use the context of working with AI experts, people who are building AI systems. They're not experts in the use case.
No.
They don't need to be. They need to understand the technology. They need to understand the context. They need to understand the restrictions and the boxes that they need to put around that, and then what the output needs to be. And very specifically, the biggest question that always comes up is, how are the people that are going to use this? What do they need? Because if this is a tool that doesn't work with the person and how they work and their workflows, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So they're not sitting there stopping everything. I'm going to go and understand how to be a neurosurgeon. Not that we're working in space, but for instance, they don't have time to do that.
That's right.
So they're like, no, you're the expert. We'll build something. You tell us how it works. We'll all play together. We'll figure it out, and then
And you talked about course. I know a great course by a very amazing person called Aamir Qutub. Yeah, so as a business leader, if you want to get started on that journey, you can download Dumb Monkey app or go to dumbmonkey.ai and access the free course that's there. That's a bit lower than your level. I think you are at a level much higher than that. And
But it's an easy access point.
it is, yes. Like it gives you exactly what you need to do to get started on that
But
journey.
I think that's a really important message. Is don't be afraid of the stuff that you don't know. Assume that there's going to be a world of it that you don't know, but jump in and play because you'll figure it out.
Yeah, totally.
And otherwise, you're just going to if you're going to stop there and keep worrying about the things that you don't know, the things that we don't know are just growing. They're growing really fast. We can't know them all, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally. 100% is.
Yep.
And don't put anything in that you don't want to be able to find on Google.
That's right.
Don't forget that key piece of information.
Well, I would say like if you are going with an enterprise AI like Copilot 365, I would say it's fairly secure.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, because they have everything contained in there. Yeah, I wouldn't trust likes of ChatGPT to do that.
Don't put your business IP into ChatGPT.
That's right. Yes.
That should be a t-shirt, right?
Yes. Like there's still some privacy settings in there which can prevent that. But again, depends on what level of business you are at. And now we are seeing some. So there are like open source large language models like Mistral and Llama that you can download and actually have it on your own servers. And that ensures that nothing goes out. And like there's one of the startups that Brandon Burns, one of our local guys over here, he's actually working with. It's called Sorry, Brandon, I can't remember the name, but
Brandon's going to message you after this.
Yes.
And tell you what it is.
So we'll get back to it. But we'll provide link to it as well, and that's something that you can actually use and like download and have it within your own servers. But I just saw that a startup has raised money here in Australia to develop our own large language model as well. So it would be good to see that space as well.
Yeah, and the space is going to evolve really, really fast. So
going faster than we know, really.
So one of the questions that I have for you is like, because you have been in and out of the media industry as well, and you have been in this space as well. How do you see AI?
There's two media people talking about AI.
Yeah. Who'd have thought?
Yeah. You guys are the right people to talk about because the technology's out there. It's actually about the implementation of how you use it.
Yeah, you don't have time in media to second guess. You just got to go.
That's right. So how do you guys think it's going to transform the media industry? And what are some of the things that people in this industry should be thinking about?
Well, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think from a person working at the creative end, so I'm talking about writers, photographers, the content creators that are actually putting that content out there. The first thing I would say is if you're not using it, you're doing yourself out of a job. Because speed and accuracy is everything.
Yeah.
And that ability to be able to challenge your own thinking, to use AI to set up not only to help you with the content that you're producing, so run it through filters, keep bouncing back, but also to start asking some really interesting questions because so much of what we do, and I come from a journalism background, so much of what you do as a journalist is absorb enormous amounts of information, try and distill it down, try and find the patterns and the threads that are in there, and then try and find what we don't know. And no one knows what you don't know. So you've just got to ask a lot of questions. And AI is brilliant at that. AI is brilliant at being able to distill information down and then you can ask it 5, 10, 15 different ways. Tell me what I'm not thinking about here, or is there a connection between this and this, or find me the pattern that relates to this subject and see what comes up. Because getting creative more and being able to ask those questions a little bit deeper in more interesting ways is actually how we're going to create content that's useful, because the threat of AI is that it can create content in seconds and it can do you out of a job. A lot of that content is going to be homogenized. A lot of the content that's out there right now has come through an AI lens. So it can be really homogenized, lots of repetitive things, lots of, Google loves a list. So, right, here's the top 5 blah, blah. Here's the top 10 blah, blah. It's like, yeah, okay. But if we're going to move beyond that, and I would suggest that that kind of content creates a negative funnel.
Yeah.
So it's going to bring in a lot of stuff at the top, but it's going to be spitting people out. And you're going to get to a point where your information becomes more homogenized. It's becoming very much a feedback loop. And then we lose the value of journalism. What's the value of media in the first place? The value of media in the first place is to disseminate information that you haven't heard before and ask interesting questions. So start asking interesting questions. And AI is great at being able to challenge people to ask interesting questions.
Yeah. I very much agree. I think in this sort of space where this technology can, it can come up with new ideas, it can warp ideas. I think, trusted forms of media is really important. Like that goes back to generative AI as well. While you were talking, I was trying to think of the brand. I think it was a US-based media business called The Atlantic.
Yes.
And they released a whole publication, and it went fantastic. It was one of their highest subscriptions stories, but we found then they essentially came to market and said it was great, but all the stories were fake.
Absolutely. They came up with the next one and said, yeah, this was AI. This was AI content. They were all fake.
So I think we're not at the stage where AI can, replace journalists or anything. I don't think that ever
But what
will,
it can do is it can respond. The Atlantic story is a great one because what that actually showed is that what AI can do really well and really cleverly is pick up on trends, pick up on patterns, because of course all AI, all machine learning is built on pattern recognition. That's where it comes from. So it can pick up on the patterns of what are people interested in, what's going to hit, what's going to get you what's going to get you a high lot of, media is eyeballs, right? So media wants attention. We know what's going to pique people's attention. So we'll produce this content that is going to respond to people's attention, and it did. So the exercise worked. But what happens if you keep doing that? So the AI models then learn on, well, these are the things that get people's attention. If it bleeds, it leads. We're going to keep repeating that same story or versions of that story, which means that the pool of information that we're pulling from is smaller. The output or the kind of content, the kind of information we're pulling out there is smaller. And isn't that the opposite of what we should be doing in a world where the information is all at our fingertips?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yep.
Trust and thought and imagination, that creativity, because that's that challenge to...
Yeah. So from a perspective of a consumer, I guess the challenge is that earlier we would all consume media from like watching TV or newspapers and things like that. Then we started to do Google searches and then finding it on the internet and still opening up the websites. But like I find myself always using something like Perplexity or asking ChatGPT about the information. And then sometimes, rarely, if I don't find that information, then I'll go and actually check that content as well.
Can I ask you a question about that? We've talked quite a lot about Perplexity versus just going to a Google search and various other things. What's interesting, I think, in that is that this is a subscription model. So my question is, what are people going to be willing to pay for in the age of AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it all goes back to the amount of value it's going to deliver. I just signed up to something that is costing me just under $400 a month. My wife does not know, but
yet,
honestly, like organizing data and spreadsheets, it takes a lot of time. So there's a new tool. What's it called? I'll have to link it after, but I think this is AI Excel. I can't remember the exact app. I'll need to look.
Excel?
What's that?
Is it Shortcuts Excel?
It may be, but it essentially it did a bit of an average study, and what it takes people 9 hours of continuous Excel work and formulas down to an average of 9 to 13 minutes. So I don't know if any of you can relate, but in my drive, my folders, I've got just all this random information I haven't been able to put together for years. Over the last couple of hours since yesterday, the amount of information that's been crystallized to that and me being able to link that back directly to a business benefit or a personal benefit has been unfounded. Like, it's absolutely amazing, some of the value it's been able to provide to me. Some of the modeling financially has been pretty interesting. So going back to how much would you pay for it, I would have never said I paid $400 to help me with Excel, but it's not Excel, it's the value that Excel can provide to me that essentially I wouldn't have been able to have before. So it's an open-ended question, I think.
Yeah.
And
really
like something like Perplexity is free to get started on. And I used Perplexity free for a long time until I got addicted to it and I needed more information.
We would absolutely encourage people to use free versions of AI and trial them.
Yes. And especially with Perplexity, because you're not putting information, you're asking it for information. So it's actually fetching the information and bringing it back. So for example, if you need an information about a product that you want to purchase, rather than going to 5 different sites, you can just ask it to create a table. It can go and find the real prices, find the the reviews and comparison it can provide you with that information itself. So from that perspective, that Perplexity is great. But the question that I wanted to understand is, in this day and age when people would be using AI to ask questions and consume information, what does the role of media looks like, and how does media needs to evolve in terms of being able to interact with AI?
I think the biggest opportunity for media, but I think all businesses, and everyone needs to pivot if they're not already. They're asleep at the wheel. It's consumption habits, right? If you think about once upon a time, well, for a lot of Australians still, you go to Google and you look and search, but even the Google playing field of, our organic ads, all of that is fundamentally changing. So if anyone has hired a consultant and spend those hundreds of thousands of dollars on customer journey, all of that seems soon enough will need to go in the bin. I think the risk for big media organizations, and News Corp is on the front foot of it, is how are we going to connect to the consumer moving forward? Because the disruption that we're facing is something that we couldn't have really ever planned for. So I think that is the key thing. I think companies have got to find ways to maintain strong direct relationships with their consumers, their customers, their readers, whatever it may be. So I think just that path to purchase and how we're going to interact with media moving forward is going to change. I think there's a bit of risk in terms of, trust, because in the days of AI and so much technology in someone's hands, there is a lot more of individual content creators. And it's really important in any society to have that trusted source of news and content for any, society to operate at any, level that needs to be trusted in the Western world or Eastern world, whatever it is.
And I think one of the key roles that we need media to play is to challenge.
Yeah.
And
don't just feed your own loops.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to hold accountable. So traditionally, media would have been holding governments to account, would have been holding big business to account. Yeah. Now it needs to be holding the technology to account and the technology creators to account, because that's what we need. We need people who can stand there and think critically and look at what's happening and say, actually, have we thought about this? Where's the ethical considerations? Tell me the story of the person that's actually being damaged here, as well as the people that are being helped. Like, we all love we love a good news story, but really that was the role of the media, was to turn around and inform and to hold accountable.
It needs to be there to the tech giants, because I'm huge on AI, of course, but I think the things that we need to be wary of is, I think I've read a piece of research that more and more Gen Zs are using it as a therapist, right?
Yes.
Which is interesting, and I probably use it to some extent as well. But if you think about things that, I don't know if I can talk about this on the podcast, but suicidal ideation when people are extremely upset.
So risk.
AI doesn't necessarily say commit suicide, but it has been shown to not pick up on things like, where's my closest bridge? Questions that could be leading. It doesn't
certainly
pick
in
up
social
on.
media platforms have been.
For sure.
So this is that feedback loop that we were talking about before, that when certain themes come up, then it will continually feedback loop that. And when do you not want that to happen? So in the space of mental health, we absolutely do not want those negative feedback loops. That can be really damaging. And then the flip side of it is, well, where's the humans in the room?
Yeah.
So where are the journalists? Where are the media outlets that turn around and say, actually, AI can also help with this? So there are experts in the field. We don't have enough mental health clinicians at the pointy end, at the expert end, so Black Dog Institute, a whole lot of research institutes are working with AI to say, if we can't get in front of people when they need us, if we can't be the person right at that time, how do we at least flag risk? How do we understand it? But how do you even find that information if you don't have journalists in there to point, if you don't have media organisations to point to both the good and the bad here? So it's shining. That's the job of the media, is to shine light on things.
And when you talked about consumption of content, like, I subscribe to a lot of media outlets, but then I would pick up Geelong Addy, but I won't read the whole newspaper because I don't have time like my dad, who would just sit every day and read the newspaper.
Read it cover to cover.
But I would just sort of pick up things that I want to read. But again, now I have got an AI agent personally who sort of like scans the paper and give me the right news. But imagine having a tool, and could be a startup idea, that could actually scan these media outlets. You're still paying for the subscription, but based on your interest and your idea, that can give you the actual news that you need to know and not worry about everything else.
It's a good point you raised, because I think about traditional media. There's been newspapers, broadcast, radio. Thing when digital came along, everyone was sort of challenged by the Googles and Facebook.
And our attention time went right down.
Significantly down. But the big challenges at the moment is what you're referring to is aggregators.
Yes.
Right? So it's no longer that, we would have to necessarily just cut a deal with Google or Apple News, but ChatGPT, they've got their news aggregators, which is pretty crazy. But if you just quickly jump back to the trusted content piece, I think one thing that's really, really important is whilst AI gives everyone power, there is a level of decentralization across the world happening. But ultimately, the big three or four tech platforms out there, power is going back to them. If you think about like the Groks of the world, which don't many people talk about in Australia. I think before DeepMind, it was the most powerful, but Elon Musk was shown to be, checking a lot of the reactions and commentary based on his Twitter posts. So
that's right.
I think it does put power into a lot of people's hands, but so can anything. It can be used for good or bad.
When you were talking earlier about value and what people put in value in terms of what they might spend their money on, I think value in terms of where they put their time is going to be an essential part of media as well. And it will fundamentally change media because when everything is a potential story, what's worth being a story and what's worth your time listening, watching, hearing it, that's where it becomes really interesting. So we're starting to look at value propositions, whereas previously we'd outsource that.
Yeah.
We'd outsource that to media, to other content creators.
And also, is there an opportunity for media to again think of broadly rather than saying, okay, we are a print media. So think about, okay, we are storytellers and now we can actually use AI to better tell those stories. So we can still have like the text version, but we can convert them into audios or videos or games that people can
distribute it easier. You can find those stories, or you can find areas where you can go and search for them. I mean, the amount of
but also tweak it on the basis of people's level and understanding.
The old big journalists
as well.
that used to have to walk around and try and find where the access was to stories, and then sit down and chase people for interviews, and then sit down and write it, and then bring in a photographer. These are really time-consuming processes. So we're able to speed those up, which means that finding stories and then telling them.
We're sort of looking at it. I totally agree with what you're saying, and we don't even look at it anymore as a platform. We're sort of platform agnostic. We're much more focused on the audience. Where's the audience? What do they need to know? What do they need to hear? And our job is essentially to deliver it to them, right? In any shape, form, or method that's needed. But in terms of, audiences, I think, personalization, more and more consumers are going to want personalized news. And I think that's one thing Perplexity does really well. In my job, and I think most people in business have got to read a fair bit of news. So when I pick up the Herald Sun or the Geelong Advertiser or news.com, I read content and I enjoy it and I love it. But one thing that I think Perplexity does really well is I can get some of that information that is not behind a paywall. It's freely accessible, but it enables you to be customized to you. So if I get the news, I've automatically custom my alerts for what, why, when. So what does that mean for me, and how do I apply it in my day-to-day basis, and what does it mean for my company? And then it turns from news to actionable insights, which I find really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think another opportunity for a lot of media organizations is to just sort of embrace some of those AI technologies like is it called Elite 11s, or is that the clothing brand?
Yeah, the Elite 11 is the brand.
Is it the AI brand? No. 11 Labs.
11 Labs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about some of the levels of technicalities they can provide with audio is just absolutely amazing. So when you're talking about everyone being able to listen to content, I think that provides a low-level barrier to entry for most organizations to test and trial with, to, all the way up to enterprise level. But there's so many pieces of technology that we can be using to help us move faster and be more efficient. It's just how to cut through the noise. I think that's the number one problem all of us are going to face.
One thing that we have started to do or try in our case is when we send out newsletters, because we send it out from our CRM, they were like generally one piece of newsletters, but we have added a section which is what does it mean for you? So it actually picks up who the person is, what their role is, what their client is. We still have the newsletter, like the news in there, but it sort of summarizes it and says, what does this news means to you? So a lot of people, and we were seeing the analytics, a lot of people would jump and wouldn't read the whole newsletter, but look at the very bottom and just sort of understand, okay, what does it mean for me?
Yeah, that's
And
really
I think I guess if like that's where the media can go toward, it just makes it more accessible for everyone.
Yeah, very much agree. It's a changing space. So
Yeah.
I think we've all got to evolve with it. We don't all need to be, the type A over here. It's okay. You don't need to, but you can't be that person that wants to live under a rock, because one day you will wake up and your world would have fundamentally changed. And I know that's probably not a popular opinion.
I agree, though.
But it needs
you
to,
can't
you need
avoid
to be there.
we can't avoid the change, and certainly in Australia we have been slow at adopting. But but then we have the opportunity also in Australia that we're actually pretty good when we hit on a niche, we tend to do it really well, and that's kind of cool because in the world of where AI is developing so fast, we are never going to compete with America, China, the big infrastructure spenders, those big technology spenders. We just aren't.
Yeah, I agree.
So where do we compete? We compete by getting really good in niche areas that add value.
Yeah,
and it's that value proposition. And to a certain extent, that applies, I think, to the media as well. In the way that we think about that is that if all you're doing is getting all of your information through AI models, they're trained to think and to respond, as we talked about in the first episode. They're trained to give you something that you want. So that's how AI works. It says, you like this, I'll give you more of that.
Yeah.
But the value of the media, where we need media to add value, is to surprise us.
That's right.
What's the things that we're not thinking about? And AI can do that. So AI can work together with that, because that great hallucinating factor that AI does, where it just makes stuff up, like it just makes shit up on the fly, that can generate ideas. A lot of that's rubbish, but it can also generate ideas. So
because it sort of builds on the evil of social media. Like everyone's social media feed is tailored to how they think, and you continue to watch that news, and it sort of just puts you in that mindset. And now if your AI is trying to please you, it's going to give you more and more information, which is just focused on that. So the world that we are living in is already full of so much of hatred and wars and
so when you
much
think,
going on
if you broaden that out, when you think about that, you have the world of information available to you, and you're seeing less and less diversity of information. That's problematic. So that's why we need media. We need creative thinkers. We need people who are going to challenge that, to say, actually, we need to step outside of that.
But I think for all businesses, the two most important things is how do I make more money and how do I save on costs? And fundamentally, anyone that doesn't agree with me, message me on LinkedIn and argue with me, because I will defend this to the cows come home. In any sort of shape and way that you can save money with AI. If we give a really good fundamental example is VO3. If you're familiar with VO3, if you think about the level of quality output they can have, whilst it may not be studio level, it is still, what 60 to 70% of the market will need. And I've seen advertising campaigns, not at News Corp, but I've seen through
Did you see the
other
IKEA
agencies. What's that?
The IKEA unboxing? Yes. So someone created an IKEA unboxing ad, and it's great because it starts with an empty room with an IKEA box, and then the IKEA box explodes.
I have.
And the whole room is filled with the furniture and everything. It's just beautiful. All done with the AI.
Yeah, it's just getting there, right?
Yes.
So if you think about, I don't think most people are fully aware of what level of quality content it can produce. VO3, I've seen in business cases of it, cutting costs from production by 25 to 30%. And if anyone has done production before, you can understand how expensive it can be. Not necessarily because even the software
it's time
costs, it's time and it's labor intensive. It may not get you to the final output, but editing and trying to get to that 70% mark is tough. Is tough. And to the creativity standpoint, coming up with new ideas, I'm a big fan of, this sounds very cheesy, but AI think labs. And what I mean by that is have these sessions and bring the problems that you can't necessarily solve yourself, or you don't necessarily set on the solution or decision we've made, and set up a sporadic, challenging partner through AI and get it to ask you those challenging questions. And when I've done that, I've come out of the room thinking completely differently. But the key is you've got to get the prompts right to really get those answers out of you.
I think we're going to keep coming back to that same point is prompts.
Right.
Prompts is the new, we used to teach kids how to sort of read and write in school and do math. We need to start teaching them prompting. We need to be teaching people how to prompt really well. And again, just jump in and start, because one of the great things about AI is that it can teach you.
Of course it can.
Yeah.
Of course it can.
So you can ask AI, how to write a prompt for this,
Yeah.
and it will tell you.
Yeah,
and then
that's
you can
right.
learn from that. You
Yeah.
don't need to even have all the language in front of you. You can use voice to text if you need to.
It's pretty cool. Like if with kids, my daughter's always asking me to bloody buy games from the App Store, right? So yesterday I'm like, I'm not buying you a game. I'm going to teach you how to build a game.
Oh
my
on
God!
Claude Code.
Wow.
Good.
So she likes to pretend she's a news reporter. So we built a
Right.
little game. It doesn't look like what you would buy for a PlayStation
Yes.
4, more like a Nintendo, but
Yeah.
it took her 10, 15 minutes of playing with
And
it.
it's hers.
Wow.
And it got a little game, right? And she thinks she's the coolest kid out right now. But if you think about
Kind of
that
is the coolest
opportunity,
kid out right
I
now.
built that
Yeah.
game. I really did. It's pretty cool. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
all different
absolutely.
aspects of life that it can
Yes.
add value.
Yeah.
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 So to bring the conversation together, I'm a business leader listening to you, and I'm sold because of how you have convinced us about the use of AI. Now I'm motivated. What are your thoughts about how does
Where you
a
start?
business leader get started? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it all depends on where you are on that
Mhm.
pendulum.
So I would give you that they've already used a bit of ChatGPT, a bit of Copilot. It has not given them the right answers, but now they want to take that next journey after that. Or they have used ChatGPT, but for personal stuff, but not
Yeah, so
really effective.
GPT might be writing their emails or
Yes,
might be
yeah.
helping them with a business proposal or something
Yeah.
like that. But how can they actually use it to save them time, unlock a bit of creativity, and really start to play with it?
I think one thing that's going to stop them spinning their wheels straight away is we may have mentioned 10 different tools in this podcast. Don't go and subscribe to all of them, even though I do. I'm guilty of it. But you'll find your time spinning your wheels and not actually gaining value. The best AI is the tool that you're going to use repeatedly. And when you use that tool repeatedly in all different aspects, you're going to find different ways to find value, because value for everyone is different from me to you. But there are definite common themes. Obviously, you tapped on the writing piece, which is obviously a key one. But if I had to pick probably a few different things that they just have to master, it's going to start with a P and end with a T. Prompt, right? You need to learn how to prompt.
Yeah.
If you don't have a prompting spreadsheet, one good hack that I can tell you that will help you consistently, even just ask the ChatGPT, I'm looking to say XYZ, can you give me the best prompt for that? And it will write the prompt for you. Super basic. It may take you 30 seconds, but it will guarantee you've got the right input, so you get the great output. And then I think going back to pick one or two tools that you're going to use and stick with it and find a way for it to generate value. If it's not going to give you value in 10, 15 minutes of playing with it, it's probably not the right tool. But the key tools out there, obviously, at the moment, is ChatGPT, really good for that expressive thinking, unlocking thoughts. It's really good at it. It links into different types of software. Claude is probably my favorite tool. Yeah, Claude would be specifically in a business context in terms of long form content, and you need really strong reasoning. Specifically, if you're in a field where you've got to make a lot of critical decisions, I think Claude is really, really cool as a bit of a thinking partner. I think whenever you're uneasy about something, or even if you think you've made a good decision, if the data is private, don't put it in, but anonymize it if you're going to put it in, and find new ways of doing what you do already, and see how you can move faster with the use of AI. So yeah, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. If you're not using Perplexity, you have to. That is a non-negotiable subscription. And just play with it. You'll quickly understand. It is essentially Google on steroids that's customized to you. Comet browser, that's getting a little bit, you don't need that right now, but I'd probably say get across a few core LLMs and start using them. And
So
learn how to
that's a
prompt.
great suggestion. And I
And
would
broaden
agree
out what
with
you're
you.
using it for.
Yes, absolutely.
So don't just use it for the same thing. Then
AI first mindset. I keep saying that, but I don't think anyone gets it when I say it.
Yeah.
When you have a thought and you want to do something, stop,
ask the AI.
ask AI.
Yeah, and that's what I said in one of the internal team trainings last year is like, whenever you are starting your day or starting to do a task, think about, can I actually use AI to do that, and start with that and then move on to do something after that. So what you talked about is like two main elements. I would say Perplexity stands on its own as an alternative to Google search. Definitely encourage everyone to use that, even with the free version. And then pick one of the assistants, either a Copilot if you're using it for your business, or ChatGPT or Claude, and just get started and then go from there.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd agree. They do different roles, serve different purposes, but the best AI is going to be the tool that you use.
Yeah.
So you rather only have 2 tools than 10 if you're going to get more value out of them.
But if you want to have fun, you can
Have
subscribe
fun. Yeah,
to.
that's different.
Yes.
Yeah.
12 months later, you're Ramon and you're in a situationship with AI.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ramon, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an awesome conversation. It's been
Thanks for
so
having
much
me.
fun.
I think we need to have him again.
I think
and
so.
we deep dive into a few more things. Yes.
We'll send him an AI-assisted invitation and see when we can squeeze into his very busy schedule. But we really appreciate your time. It's amazing insights. And having AI adopters, early AI adopters in here makes it easier for all the dumb monkeys of the world that are sitting there just going, I don't know where to start.
Yes.
So just start.
Yeah,
Great advice.
that's it. Just get on with it.
It's been awesome.
Cool.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Aamir. Thank you, Ramon. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode 2 of the Dumb Monkey Show. Thank you.